Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm bringing you a truly special episode, continuing the tearful yet hope-filled journey of the single mother, lythica. In the previous episode, I'm sure you still remember the emotional moment when lythica discovered she was pregnant. That joyous news came at a time when it seemed the whole world had turned its back on her. But the most unexpected part was the return of Hung, the man who once left, now coming back at the exact moment she needed him most. The moment he heard the news, Hung didn't hesitate for even a second. He held lythica's hand tightly, his eyes filled with worry yet determination, and immediately took her to the hospital for a checkup. In the stark white room, every passing second waiting for the results felt like a century. Lythica was so tense her hands turned cold, while Hung tried his best to hold her tightly, giving her a little faith. Finally, the doctor smiled and announced, the baby was already 3 months old, developing well, and completely healthy. At that moment, both of them broke down in tears. All the worries and fears they had been carrying melted away, replaced by tears of joy. Lythica looked at Hung with trembling eyes, while he nodded firmly, his gaze overflowing with determination. From now on, you will never be alone again. It was in that sacred moment that Hung made the most important decision of his life. He didn't want Lythica to keep enduring the gossip and judgment of society. He didn't want the woman he loved to silently carry all the burdens by herself. He wanted to give her a rightful place, a home, and a lifetime of protection. So, Hung decided to hold a small wedding. No need for grandeur, no need for luxury, just the presence of family, close relatives, and supportive neighbors. A simple wedding, but enough to affirm, from this day forward, Lythica officially becomes his wife, and the baby she carries will have a true father. A wedding without a sparkling crystal gown, without a dazzling stage, yet filled with love, sincerity, and responsibility. That is the lifelong promise Hung made to Lythica. And now, let's follow along with today's video to witness more details about this simple yet deeply heartwarming wedding, and see how their new chapter of happiness will continue to unfold. When Hung returned, Lythica's small house suddenly seemed brighter. Not just because the morning sunlight pierced through the erica leaves, scattering golden beams across the veranda, but because of the change in every smile, every breath, every heartbeat of life inside. With Hung by her side, Lythica felt renewed strength, faith, and the peace she had long yearned for. He set aside his distant work and endless travels, dedicating himself wholly to the woman he loved. Every morning, as soon as the rooster crowed and thin mist still lingered on the path, Hung quietly rose. Wearing his old jacket, he carried a basket to the market, carefully choosing bundles of fresh greens, newly laid eggs, and fish still wriggling in the water. He was already familiar with the vendors, chatting warmly like a longtime son of the village. Back home, he tended the fire, the wood crackling as the aroma of roasted rice porridge filled the air. When the steaming bowl was placed before Lythica, his eyes overflowed with tenderness. Eat this, my love. Leave the outside world to me. All you need to do is rest and save your strength for our child. Once, when Lythica bent over with a hoe, trying to pull weeds in the garden, Hung rushed to her side. He snatched the tool from her hands, his brows furrowed, voice stern yet brimming with affection. Let me handle this. You're pregnant, how could I ever be at peace seeing you do heavy work? Then he crouched down, pulling weeds swiftly, sweat glistening on his forehead, before flashing her a crooked grin. Besides, I think I'm better at it than you anyway. What seemed like a simple joke made Lythica burst into laughter, her pure smile strengthening his resolve to protect this happiness at all costs. By day, Hung was her shield, always steady, always bringing her a sense of safety. But at night, when the oil lamp flickered and Lythica and Tony drifted into sleep, his thoughts weighed heavy. Lying on his side, gazing at the aged tiled roof, his heart ached. He feared the day he would have to leave again, forcing Hoai to shoulder everything alone. He dreaded the cruel whispers of society hurting her spirit. Deep inside, his only wish was to stay by her forever, shielding both mother and child. That evening, as golden sunlight bathed the garden and the scent of erica flowers lingered in the breeze, Hung and Hoai sat together on the old wooden bench in front of the house. The bench creaked with age, yet today it felt unusually warm. Gently, Hung took her hand, thin and fragile, yet full of resilience. Looking deeply into her eyes, his voice slow but unwavering, like an oath, he spoke. Hoai, I promise I'll always be by your side, loving you for the rest of my life. Even when we have children of our own, Tony will forever be my son. I'll love him and care for him as if he were my own flesh and blood. All I want is for you and the children to be safe, happy, and never suffer injustice or pain again. Hoai froze, her nose stinging as tears welled in her eyes. In that moment, she wished time would stop so she could sit there forever, basking in the warmth of his hand holding hers. Before she could speak, Hung continued, his voice deep but resolute, his eyes shining with the determination he had long hidden. I know our finances aren't much right now. After all those years working away, I haven't saved much. But I don't want you to carry the label of a single mother any longer. I don't want you and the baby to suffer from the gossip of others. I want to give you a rightful place, a proper family. I dream of a big wedding, with flags, music, and neighbors all around, so you can walk proudly by my side. He paused, squeezing her hand tighter, then went on, his tone filled with yearning. But I know things are hard right now. At the very least, let's take some wedding photos to capture our memory, so when our child grows up, they can see how happy their parents once were. And we'll hold a small gathering, just close family and neighbors, to witness it. That way, when our baby is born, you can proudly say, you are my wife. Hoai's heart trembled. She quickly shook her head, voice trembling. But, our finances are so tight, Hung. I don't want to burden you or add to your worries. Just having you back here, just being by my side like this, that's enough for me. Hearing that, Hung leaned closer, his eyes gentle yet firm. He clasped her small hand within his calloused one, as though passing his strength into her. We don't need anything grand, Hoai. No fancy dresses, no lavish banquet. Just a few loved ones, just your agreement, and I'll be fulfilled. You don't realize it, but that's the one thing I desire most right now. His words, like a warm breeze, melted away her worries. Faced with his sincerity, her heart softened. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but this time they were tears of joy. She nodded lightly, her lips curved in a trembling smile, whispering, Yes. I agree. As the gentle sunset bathed the garden, their promise became a sacred seal, marking the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. The next day, Hung held Hoai's hand as they walked to a small bridal shop in town. It wasn't one of those glittering studios in the city, but instead carried a sense of warmth and familiarity. The road leading there was lined with bougainvillea, their pale pink petals fluttering gently in the afternoon breeze. With each step, Hoai's heart beat faster, both nervous and full of anticipation. Inside the fitting room, bright lights reflected off the mirrors, and a faint fragrance lingered in the air. Hoai stood awkwardly in front of the mirror as the makeup artist gently adjusted her dress and tucked a small clip into her hair. When her reflection finally appeared in full, she could hardly believe it was her. No longer just the weary woman tied to fields and kitchen fires, today she truly was a bride, a simple bride, but radiant beyond words. When the door opened and she stepped out in her white gown, the world seemed to pause. The dress was not adorned with layers of lace or lavish details, but its simplicity only enhanced her pure and graceful beauty. Her hair was neatly pinned, with a few loose strands swaying in the soft light. A light blush on her cheeks, eyes as clear as morning dew, she looked ethereal. At that moment, Hung was utterly stunned. He froze, his gaze locked on her. The noise of the town disappeared, leaving only Hoai in his world. His eyes shone, his lips trembled, his heart pounded wildly as he whispered in a hoarse, emotional voice. You're so beautiful, Hoai. I never thought I'd be this lucky, to see you as my bride. Hearing those words, Hoai's eyes welled up with tears. Her lashes quivered, and a gentle smile bloomed on her lips. In her gaze was the shyness of a woman in her first wedding dress, the overflowing joy of love, and above all, complete trust in Hung, the man she would walk with for the rest of her life. The photo shoot began. In that small studio, under the photographer's lens, moments of love were forever preserved, the firm grip of hands unwilling to let go, the deep gazes that made the rest of the world fade away, the smiles mingled with tears of joy. At one point, Hoai couldn't hold back her tears, and Hung gently wiped them away, whispering by her ear. Don't cry, you're most beautiful when you smile. I want to see you happy like this forever. Each photo captured more than just two figures, it captured a union of love, a silent vow. Every glance was a promise, every smile the start of a new journey, building a family, nurturing love, and facing life's challenges together. When the final picture was taken, Hoai leaned softly against Hung's shoulder, whispering with a trembling voice. I believe this will be the most beautiful memory of my life. Hung wrapped his arms around her, holding her tightly as though to protect her forever. His eyes gleamed with determination, his voice steady like a vow. No, this is only the beginning, Hoai. I promise, from now on, I will bring you and our child even greater happiness. In that moment, time seemed to stand still. Outside, the evening sun bathed the bridal shop's porch in golden light. The breeze stirred the bougainvillea branches, scattering soft pink petals onto the ground, like a blessing for the sweet beginning of an everlasting love. After holding in their hands the wedding photos filled with precious memories, Hung and Hoai began visiting their closest loved ones to invite them to their small celebration. The first people they went to see were Brother Ha and Mother Ha, the ones who had once opened their arms to shelter Hoai during her loneliest and hardest days. When she received the invitation, Mother Ha held Hoai's hand tightly, tears brimming in her eyes. My daughter, at last you found your safe harbor of happiness. I'm so glad for you. Brother Ha smiled warmly, patting Hung on the shoulder, his voice steady. I entrust my sister to you. You must take good care of her, understand? Hung nodded, eyes resolute. Don't worry, I will never let Hoai be sad again for the rest of her life. Next, they visited Hoai's foster mother, a woman who had endured hardship yet never hesitated to embrace and love her as her own child. Holding the invitation with trembling hands, her lips quivered as she whispered. My dear girl, finally, this day has come. All I hope is that you truly find peace, and never feel lonely again. Hoai broke down in tears, hugging her tightly, soaking in the boundless love that gave her newfound strength. And when the joyful news reached Tiu San, Hung's younger sister, she nearly squealed with excitement. Grabbing her brother's hand, her eyes sparkled with joy. Big brother, I'm so happy to see you've found a good woman to walk with for life. I'll represent the family in giving you both my heartfelt blessings. Then she turned to Hoai, embracing her future sister-in-law with a radiant smile. Welcome to the family. With each stop they made, their happiness multiplied. No one brought up the past, no one reminded them of hardships. There was only emotion, sincere blessings, and warm smiles. Holding in her hands the invitations already given, Hoai felt lighter than ever before. With Hung clasping her hand, they looked at each other, their eyes shining with faith in a new beginning, a simple wedding, yet one overflowing with love. Inside the small house, the atmosphere suddenly became lively and festive. From early morning, everyone was busy preparing. Lytutieu and a few neighbor girls carefully cut sheets of paper into flowers, stringing them into long, colorful garlands to hang along the walls and windows. Bright red, green, and yellow paper lanterns swayed gently in the breeze, turning the humble home into a space filled with joy and warmth. Brother Ha and the men of the village carried bamboo tables and chairs into the yard, arranging them neatly in rows. Laughter and chatter mixed with the creaking of chairs and the rustling sound of brooms sweeping the yard. From the kitchen, Mother Ha's voice called out, "San, remember to buy some banana leaves and mung beans at the market later. I'm planning to wrap some sticky rice cakes for the children to enjoy." Hoai was given lighter tasks. She sat at the table, arranging invitations and folding napkins, her eyes shimmering with happiness. From time to time, she looked up to see Hung outside, helping the neighbors put up a simple bamboo canopy in the yard. Sweat trickled down his forehead, but his radiant smile never left his face. The children in the village were just as excited, running around the yard, picking up fallen paper flowers, and eagerly competing to hang extra ribbons. Their cheerful laughter echoed down the narrow lane, making passers-by stop and smile. There were no sparkling chandeliers, no grand flower gates, no silk-covered tables like the weddings in the city. But each handmade lantern, each garland, each rustic bamboo chair carried the sincerity and affection of everyone who contributed. The small house, with the help of many caring hands, now shone like a festival ground. This was a wedding without extravagance or luxury, but filled with kinship, sharing, and pure joy. Its simplicity made the atmosphere warmer than ever. And in another corner of the day, even when it was just the two of them, the house still brimmed with excitement. From dawn, Hung and Hoai worked side by side. He wiped down bamboo chairs, adjusted the tables, and hung a few simple lanterns at the front porch. Though sweat soaked his brow, his smile remained bright, his eyes always glancing toward Hoai. With her belly growing heavier, Hoai couldn't do much physical work. She sat at the table, folding napkins, arranging invitations, and cutting paper flowers to decorate the room. Watching Hung bustling about in the yard, her heart swelled with indescribable happiness. Every so often, Hung would walk in, handing her a cup of water and teasing with a wink. "My bride is only allowed to do light work. No running around, all right?" Hoai chuckled, her eyes sparkling. "Then I'll make the house pretty, and you take care of the heavy work outside. We'll prepare together, that way, it feels complete." There were no dazzling lights or ornate decorations, just paper lanterns and garlands made by their own hands. Yet every little detail carried their love and hope for the future. It was a wedding without luxury or grandeur, but one that held all the warmth and sincerity in the world. And for Hoai, simply having Hung by her side was already the greatest happiness of her life. The wedding day finally arrived. Even as the sun peeked over the bamboo groves at the village gate, Hoai's yard was already filled with laughter and chatter. The simple paper lanterns hung the night before swayed gently in the morning breeze, catching the soft golden light. The handmade paper garlands, crafted petal by Hung and Hoai, now glistened under the dawn like a painting, plain yet breathtakingly beautiful. The whole village seemed to sense something special. Children from the neighborhood ran around the gate, shouting with excitement and peeking curiously into the yard. Inside the house, the fragrance of betel leaves mingled with the scent of incense smoke, adding a solemn touch to the air. Tony toddled about the yard, clutching a tiny bouquet of wildflowers that Hung had picked the day before. The flowers weren't elaborate, but they carried sacred meaning. The boy skipped happily, his little sandals slapping against the ground, his round eyes sparkling with innocent joy. Each step he took was followed by giggles from the guests, filling the space with even more cheer. Watching her son, Hoai's heart swelled with emotion, peace and happiness blending together in a way she had never felt before. In the small house, Mother Ha stood quietly in a corner, her eyes blurred with tears. She looked at her daughter in the simple white gown, humble, yet radiant. Memories surged back, the days when Hoai bore everything alone, struggling as a single mother, swallowing her tears in silence. Now, seeing her daughter smile happily beside the man of her life, the weight she had carried for so long seemed to lift. The moment of truth came. Before their closest family and friends, Hung clasped Hoai's hand. His palms were rough from years of labor, yet warm and steady. Looking deeply into her eyes, his voice rang out, calm, heartfelt, and resolute. From this day forward, I will always be by your side. Together, we will raise Tony and our child. No matter how hard life may get, I will never let go of your hand. The yard fell silent, all ears on his vow. Hoai trembled, her heart tightening. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but her smile shone brightly as she answered, her voice choked yet unwavering. I believe in you, Hung. I will walk with you for the rest of my life. Applause erupted all around them. As they exchanged rings, both faces glowed with smiles through tears. No flowery words were needed, just their gaze was enough for everyone to understand, they were truly meant for each other. When the ceremony ended, the wedding closed with a simple meal. On the table were golden boiled chicken, fragrant sticky rice, fresh garden vegetables, and a pot of braised fish. It wasn't a feast of delicacies, but every dish had been prepared by Hung and Hoai themselves, brimming with love. Laughter filled the little house, blending with the aroma of the warm meal, creating an unforgettable atmosphere of warmth and intimacy. Tony sat quietly in his mother's lap, wide eyes fixed on the sparkling ring on her finger. With childlike curiosity, his tiny hands reached out to touch it, as if exploring something wondrous and new. Beside them, Hung's strong arms wrapped around both mother and son. His eyes glowed with pride, determination, and overflowing happiness, a vow etched deep in his heart to protect this little family for a lifetime. Outside the porch, the golden lantern light bathed every smiling face. The breeze stirred the paper garlands, sending a few petals fluttering to the ground, like a sacred blessing from the heavens. And in that moment, a new beginning was officially born, simple, humble, yet overflowing with love. The wedding feast came to an end, leaving the little house brimming with echoes of laughter, warm blessings, and the gentle gazes of love directed at the young couple. As the guests gradually departed, only the golden lantern light remained, spilling softly across the yard. Hoai leaned against Hung's shoulder, her fingers gently clasping his hand. Tony slept soundly in her arms, his steady breaths and angelic face radiating innocence. In that moment, Hung wrapped his arms around them both, his eyes gleaming with pride and resolve. He whispered, "We've begun a new chapter, Hoai. I promise, no matter how hard life may become, I will never let you and our child be lonely again." Hoai nodded lightly, her lips curving into a radiant smile through lingering tears. She believed in his vow, in the steady embrace holding her close, and in a future where, even amid storms, they would walk through it together. Outside, the crescent moon rose high, silver light spilling across the small garden, shimmering over the wedding photos still hanging at the porch. Everything seemed like a sign, a witness to a humble beginning, yet filled with hope. And so today's story closes in joy, in smiles laced with tears of happiness. But will this simple happiness be strong enough to carry their little family through the journey ahead? Will Hung and Hoai be able to keep their home safe amid life's unexpected trials? Stay tuned for the next episode to see what awaits them on the path ahead.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người câu chuyện của mẹ đơn thân Lý Hoài Ca và cảnh sát Hùng. Và mọi người ơi, ở trong tập này thì có một điều rất là vui khi Hùng và Hoài Ca đã tổ chức đám cưới và hạnh phúc bên nhau. Và hiện tại thì Hoài Ca và Hùng mình vẫn đang làm video và chưa có hoàn thành. Hy vọng rằng là mọi người sẽ ủng hộ cho video của mình nhiều hơn và ủng hộ cho Hoài Ca cũng như Hùng nhiều hơn nữa để mình có động lực để ra video đều hơn. Và mong rằng nếu như mọi người có ý kiến đóng góp gì cho kênh mình thì hãy để lại ở phần bình luận, cũng như là nếu như mà yêu quý hai nhân vật Hoài Ca và Hùng thì hãy để lại phần bình luận những lời chúc phúc cho họ, và mong rằng họ sẽ có thể ở bên nhau và kết thúc trong một cuộc sống tươi đẹp hạnh phúc. Chào tạm biệt mọi người, hẹn gặp lại ở video sau.